My name is John Carter. Yes, son. I need Gallo, and there's many. I need Gallo from ITS.
You got it.
Thank you. And there's Mehdi. Drum roll. You have a presentation you want to talk about, or we just go straight to the question? Okay. Okay. We're all here for navigating the New York City DDC contract and RFP process. My name is John Goddard. I am the DDC ACO. I apologize that we didn't anticipate the popularity of this session and that some of you have to stand. So we'll try to get along and make sure that we answer all your questions, but attempt to see how fast we can move this along. On my left is
Annabella Hedman with CS Consultants, and we are a consultant to DDC.
Julia, I'm a contract manager in DC ACO Professional Contracts Unit.
Mehdi Asharian here, Director of Program Management, Infrastructures.
Rudolph Gideon from Gideon GLC. We are design and construction inspection construction management firm. We work both as a prime and sub-consultant.
okay. Is it useful to you guys to go around the room to say who you are? No? Okay. How many of you have worked with DDC? And how many of you have not worked for New York City? And how many of you have worked for New York City but not DDC? Those are the same questions I got from Barodi downstairs. All right. So we have a mixed group here. We ran out of space. We have a mixed group here, and what we're trying to do is to give sufficient information to the newbies, plus give some more information to those people who have done business with us, and everything in between. Essentially, I'm just going to say a little bit about the city procurement process. City procurement is governed by New York State General Municipal Law, and all of you who have done business with the city know about something called the Procurement Policy Board. That's PPB. And every time they say ACO, I am the ACO, I am the Agency Chief Contracting Officer. Every time they say ACO at DDC, I say PPB. And everybody holds their head because it's rules and regulations about how procurement has to be done. All right. So the PPB, the Procurement Policy Board, is authorized by New York State municipal law. So the New York State municipal law gave us the New York City Charter, and the Charter gave us the PPB rules. So thank you, Sandra. So PPB rules establishes procedures. Where am I?
There you go.
All right. PPB rules establishes procedures for solicitation by competitive steel bidding, small purchases, emergency procurements, intergovernmental procurement, and rules under which alternatives to competitive steel bidding are allowed. Stop me anytime you have a question. The procurement process. The city procurement process takes the following steps. A need is identified and funds are made available. A solicitation is written and published. A competition is held. A vendor is selected, and a determination is made concerning responsibility. So responsibility is, does the vendor have the business integrity to be paid city funds? So if you have if we have a apparent winner of a competition, we are going to try and find out, are you up to date in your taxes? Do you have any ECB violations? Have you had any issues with other governments being debarred? So generally we look at that background, and that's what's called making a responsibility determination. If you, after the contract is negotiated and signed, well, this is for RFP. Remember, when you do a bid, the bid would come in with a price, so the chances of negotiation, the possibility of negotiating up is out. we can negotiate down, but the contract is very rarely negotiated when it's a firm fixed price bid. But in the consultant world, in the RFP world, negotiations do take place. The contract negotiated and signed, contract is registered. That's the important part. The charter doesn't allow us to implement a contract until it's registered by the city controller's office. They are mandated, they have a 30-day mandate that they have to review it within that time. So generally that's not a issue in terms of the timeline of getting a project implemented. There are a number of different processes for different dollar amounts. So the large contracts are considered greater than 100,000. There's open competition and advertisement is required. Small is 100,000 or less, a random selection among 10 vendors. No advertisement, I shouldn't say no oversight, limited oversight. Review, MWBEs can be added to the random list and it's required above 25,000. Micro is 20,000 or less. You heard Chipo Lizette Camilo talk about the wanting to move the micro up from 20 to 35 to be more inclusive of MWBEs. So generally those are the categories in which procurements are done.
Can I ask you a question? When you say for the small, when you say random selection among 10 contractors from city contractors, you're referring to consultants and construction?
Oh yeah. All right, so most of the time it's very rare that we do consultants for small purchases 100,000 or less. It's not that it's not done, but it's rare. Because at 100,000 or less, we tend to want to go towards fixed price, not capacity, not evaluation of organization and capacity and so on. So most consultants do not operate in a fixed price world. So it's rare that we do consultants at 100,000 or less. It's not never, but it's rare. So everybody puts their hand in the procurement. These are the offices involved in the procurement process. The Mayor's Office of Contract Services, you heard the CHIPO today. The Office of Management and Budget, to make sure that we have the funds. Corporation Counsel, to make sure that the documents that you sign are appropriate as the form and legal authority. Department of Investigation, you heard me talk about business integrity. They take a look at the companies, at the bidders or the proposers, the apparent winning proposer. Department of Citywide Administrative Services, that's where you get your city record. That's where you register to be able to get emails about procurements that are in the works. If we have an RFP in the works, we have to advertise it in the city record. And once you have signed up in the city record, you will get an email for that type of work. Commodities, it's called commodities. You know, bureaucrats have all these little words that mean things to them and nobody else. When you register for those commodities, you get and we put up the advertisement, you will automatically get an email from the city record saying, hey, DDC put up an advertisement for RFP. Go and check it out. Department of Finance gets in because they don't, as part of the business integrity, they check to see if you pay your taxes, if you have ECB violations. Right. So we can't go past if you haven't paid your taxes, right? So they get involved with that. Department of Labor Services, and we have Maria Rosario here with us from Department of Labor Services.
Staff here too.
Oh, okay.
Small business services.
Hi. So we are required to do employment forms, and they're required to be vetted through Department of Labor Services. And you may or may not be called in for interviews depending on if you're a first-time proposer or if you're what they call it, something has expired. Their employment what?
Waiver.
All right, the employment waiver has expired, you may call in for interview by the Department of Labor Services. And then the Office of the Control. That's where, after we put everything together, the packages go to be registered. And what registered means is that without registration, you can't get a check. So that, to you, would be the most important process. You need a contract registered to get a check. And what it is, very briefly, I think I just know too much about this for my own.
Guys, move forward so you can let the people behind. There's space here. Move forward.
I'll leave the door open, please.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of getting steamy.
There's more space here.
You can stand in front of me, I can hear.
The chairs can be moved this way.
Just real quick, is the presentation gonna be available somewhere after we go?
This could be, I'll give it to them.
Who's that?
I'll give it to the presentation organizers.
Okay.
All right?
The workshops are available online as well.
They are, that's what I was
Yeah.
asking. Okay.
Or that, this
video,
being
yeah.
Oh, the videos, oh, wow.
There's a link on the program where you can see the workshops.
Nice shape. All right, so, and then, so we do the registration, and then you get a notice to proceed, depending on what kind of RFP it is. Some RFPs, you don't get a notice to proceed until there's a task order. So, I'm not sure I want to get into that level of detail yet. Maybe Mehdi will talk a little bit about task orders a little later on. So what does MOX do? So MOX has oversight responsibilities for certificate of procedural requisites, EO 102, and this is all things that are mandated by the charter. EO 112, sorry, is an executive order. This is to ensure that procurements, especially construction work, because prevailing wage doesn't happen in the RFP world. In construction work, the bidder can pay prevailing wage, and the big oversight, the emphasis of this administration for MOX is Local Law 1 of 2013, which is the MWBE, which you heard a lot about downstairs.
John, before you go, let's go back to the previous slide, the steps, procurement. This whole list of steps or oversight that you listed over there takes approximately, on the average from your experience, 18 months?
No. What happens is a lot of it is concurrent. Procurement from the establishing of the RF need and the draft solicitation takes RFP takes about 240 to 280 days. All right. So yes, a big yes.
I'm sorry, you finish.
A big portion of that is the evaluation, because we just did a big RFP. We got 250 proposals. So what has to happen is that we have to go through each one of those. We have to make sure that the vendors are responsive. They have provided all the documents. You're going to talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
All right. The documents, provided all the documents, made sure that the things are not missing, make sure that people who shouldn't have applied didn't apply, then pass that on to the evaluators. So we have, say, 200 packages to review, we have 6 evaluators. You could imagine that takes a little time. And then, yes.
I was curious to know, SDVOSBs, Governor Cuomo signed the law a year, 2 years ago, adding service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses as a 6% goal of New York State spend. And for the first time, SDVOSBs were invited to the CUNY conference at John Jay this summer. Is that, will VOSBs be included in any preference as MWBEs are?
It's two different programs.
Right.
So we don't have MWBE programs when we have state and federal funding. What we have is DBE. So I don't know to what extent, I don't know if many of you would know the answer of any other program other than the DBE program, which is attached to the state and federal funding. So I can't.
Attached to the what?
State and federal funding. When we do a project, we try to get other people's money rather than ours.
So if you have state funding or federal funding, then
Yeah.
I just want to elaborate about this a little bit here. What happens if the actual construction contract is federally funded, and some of these federally funded projects here, the supervision portion of the contract is also has to be procured with the federal money, whether it's a FHWA, FDA, etc., etc. What we call that one a DBE participation. DBE participation currently with the professional contract is 20%. It's fixed. It's different than MWBE, which we talk about it later, what type of percentage we have. But currently here with all professional contract that we have, any type of state funded, 20% belongs to DBE.
so if I have my federal VA certification as a DES, UOSB,
Yes.
and New York State certification, that will allow me to bid on things.
We don't, you can only participate with prime. The prime consultants, they come in there and bid. If you are a DBE certificate, they have to approach you, they have to get that 20% from you as part of their sub. You won't be able to directly.
I would be a sub with
Right.
prime.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Did we pass this? Sorry? I think we went this one. Okay, so these are a lot of rules, right? A lot of people. So in addition, we have other office oversight procurement responsibilities. OMB watches the money, right, and determines something called capital eligibility. In other words, they will not give us funds to spend on a project that is not capital eligible. So what does that mean? The city sells bonds for their capital program. That selling the bonds on the market means they have to have collateral to support the bonds. So the collateral is created when the project is built. So now that you have a building, you can say this building was related to these bonds. So if you have a project that is not an asset, you cannot use that project to be collateral on a bond. So if a project is less than a certain dollar amount or doesn't have a certain life, it cannot be a capitally eligible project. So it has to use expense funds, which is not normally the way construction is built. So they keep track on whether we're building something with capitally eligible money. The Corporation Council keeps track on whether the documents we are signing, we have the authority to sign. Is DDC allowed to do this kind of procurement? And the form. So Corporation Council requires a certain form to the contract, for example, insurance. So they make sure that we have the correct form of insurance in the contract language. Department of Investigation, we spoke about. Did I do this? It seems so familiar. I did?
Yeah.
Labor, okay. So somebody could tell me you did that already. All right. Okay. The mayor's office has implemented about 3 years ago, I think, automated procurement tracking system, which allows us to follow all the rules. There's a little workflow behind it, so it allows us to follow all the rules, so we don't have to remember each of these steps. And when we follow the rules, it goes to the next step. It's called the Automated Procurement Tracking System, APT, and it allows us to share documents and send things along and not forget any step in the complicated process. I spoke about responsible contractors. The one sentence here is the last one, that you have to do VENDEX, and VENDEX is a citywide database about information about current and past vendors. I went the wrong way? It's done? Maybe it's done.
I got you.
John, I think
That was the last
I think it's
a good question is that how many people actually understand what the VENDEX scope is on? Because that's critical.
Yeah.
So, you want me to say a little bit about that?
Yeah.
All right. So, New York City Charter, when it was developed in what, late 1980s, came about because of a big scandal at the DOT. Somebody had made a proposal to DOT for parking meters and had presented a cardboard cutout of what the parking meters would look like. There was never a prototype, and that caused a whole big scandal back then. And what happened is that to sort of prevent that, it was decided that to create the PPB, the new charter actually, the PPB, and part of the PPB is said, oh, somebody had a bright idea. We're going to track vendors, right? We're going to make them self-report on a variety of issues. Have you been debarred? Have you, who are you, what's your corporate structure? Who you share space with? So there are about 17 questions that you have to answer, and then the principals of the company have to answer questions. I think those are about 6 or 8 questions that they have to answer, and this data, before it used to be all paper. I think about 4 years ago they digitalized it, so now it's available citywide, so that all the agencies could see what the answers were to the questions. And that is managed by the Mayor's Office of Contract Services.
I have a question for
Sure.
VENDEX. If you're submitting on a proposal, whatever, does the VENDEX have to be in the mayor's office prior to you
No.
sending in? You have a certain amount of time
If
after?
you are a parent winning bidder, we will have to tell you, go.
Then you'll have a certain amount of time to get that in?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I'd like you to just give us a quick rundown of what happens when we get what we ask for in an RFP, and we will take it from there with questions afterwards.
Okay, in general, EDC has quite a standard format for RFP. So the RFP is always posted on the DDC website, and we strongly encourage you to subscribe to City Record or visit City Record on a regular basis, because as John said, whenever the solicitation opportunity is available, we need to advertise it on the City Record. So once you see this information, they will tell you when to come to the DDC website and download the RFP. The download is completely free to the public, but prior to to download, you need to do a very quick registration. Your company name, your contact information, basically it's the email and the phone number. Then you can click download. And if we have any addenda, we will also post it on the same website. Once you have registered to download the RFP, your information is automatically stored in our database, and you will receive an auto notification by email telling you that for this RFP we have issued an either addenda or the minutes to the pre-proposal conference if there's any. So that's why we strongly encourage you to visit the City Record website or come to DDC website on a daily basis, regular basis, so that you won't lose any opportunity for the solicitation. When you receive the RFP or download the RFP, we encourage you to read the RFP really carefully, to pay attention to the contract term and the submission deadline. Usually, in our professional contracts, we request you to hand deliver your submission don't rely on the postal service or anything that. All the information as to delivery the delivery address is always indicated in our RFP. You have to hand deliver it to the 4th floor to our unit, the DDC professional unit. When you read the RFP, if you have any question, any inquiry about the RFP, please send your inquiry in writing to the authorized agency contact person. The contact person's information is always listed on the first page of the RFP. So once we read your inquiry, our unit definitely will respond to it. We'll see whether this is necessary to issue an addendum to inform all the prospective proposals. Let me see. Okay. Also in the RFP, we always have a checklist for the contents, because we always say when we review the package, we check two things: one, whether the proposal is responsive or not; two, whether the proposal is the responsibility of the proposal. To ensure the responsiveness of your proposal, we strongly recommend you to pay close attention to the checklist of the contents. We will clearly list whatever document you need to submit in your submission. In the RFP, we will also clearly list the evaluation criteria. That's something once said, it's on the RFP, it's public, it's to the public. So pay attention to the weights of each criteria. Because that's how our evaluators score your submissions. The basis of award is also indicated in the RFP. In most of the cases, when it comes to professional contracts, it's a quality-based selection, which means the evaluation team will review the technical proposal and score them. I believe Manny will give more details when it comes to the evaluation.
Just let me say one thing about writing your proposal. You know, these days you can write your resume and it's passed through a scanner with and they read it and they look for buzzwords, so that if you are not up and current with how resume buzzwords, you could submit resumes dime a dozen and you'll never get an interview. Right? So the reason I'm telling you this is that all the evaluators have in front of them to judge your proposal is what you have written. You have to write and explain your company or yourself in the best means of words possible, because they cannot read your mind. You must put it on paper what it is you're trying to sell. So a proposal is a selling opportunity for yourself and for your company. Thank you.
Well, let me ask one question before you go. I'm a newbie here, so I may, but no question is no. With New York City DOT proposals, they don't allow graphics. No graphics are allowed in the response when you are preparing a proposal to submit to New York City, which I have complained to them that it begs the question, you can't imagine what the person is trying to describe when you can show it graphically in a very beautiful way.
Our graphics are limited to 8.5 by 11.
You have graphics, so 8.5 by 11.
Excuse me, there's people, how many people are outside? Can people move forward so that everyone can have access to the room? There's space over here on the right for about 3 people. There's space up here for about 3 people.
Are we exceeding the limit, or is this
If I
There's a little bit more space up here on the right as well.
Yes, good idea.
Alright, okay.
Okay, so that's,
Excuse me, I understand you decided possibly they're scanning the proposals?
no. I'm just pointing out
Other
that
places.
in resumes, if you submit a resume for a job, 9 times out of 10, not a person reading it,
Okay.
right?
All right.
And the business has gotten very sophisticated in the way resumes are looked at.
All right.
I'm just making the example that you have to you have to sell yourself at the highest level when you make a proposal.
Understood. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. When we talk, yes, do you have a question?
You might cover it regarding joint venture.
Oh, joint venture.
I
The
can
proposals
cover it.
actually require the certificate of authorization.
Yes.
But I was told like it takes about 3 or 4 weeks to obtain that certification. Is there a faster way to expedite this if the proposal just came out and it's due, let's say, in 4 weeks?
All right,
Is there
so
any way-
is this have you asked that question, the specific proposal that's on the
The
street?
pre-proposal is not, it's next week.
Talking about the.
Oh, next week,
Yeah.
okay. We'll answer it at the next week, but let me tell you briefly. At the time, the requirement in the RFP is that the entity that is proposing is on the New York State Education website.
The prime.
Sorry?
What
The,
about
the entity that is making the proposal must be authorized on the New York State Department of Education website.
And if you're a joint venture, both.
The entity that is making the proposal must be authorized on the New York State.
So then it wouldn't be authorized if your VENDEX isn't in, correct?
The New York State Department of Education authorization has nothing to do with vendors.
Okay.
It's with your professional registration.
For the certificate, okay, we'll ask about the certificate specific.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Because you covered the responsiveness and.
Okay. You want to say a few words? Oh,
So I think that a lot of people haven't done business with DDC and they see the presentation that John had, and I think it intimidates a lot of people because it's a lot of technical stuff. It comes down to like how the bonds are done, how they get the money, how it's supposed down to getting the RFP. But I think most people here, when it comes to the nit grit, just want to know, what do I need to do for my proposal, basically, right? So a couple of things that I thought about when asked on the panel event was, what do you need to consider, whether you're gonna be a prime or a sub, whether you're a certified minority firm or not. So I'll go through my little list here, my little notes. So the first thing that I have is that you definitely have to read the proposal. We cannot emphasize how much, agencies tend to use the template, and then suddenly they change the template and you missed a couple of things and you're considered non-responsive because of that. Or maybe certain type of contracts have specific little things that change and you miss them because all the sections look the same, but you didn't read that one particular paragraph. So you just want to make sure that you read everything, you understand everything, and if you have any questions, you want to make sure that you know when the deadline to submit those questions are, and also what method of submittal and to who to submit those questions. And everything is really spelled out in the proposal. With DDC particularly, the proposals that in my opinion, are a lot simpler and are a lot more user-friendly than with other agencies. So I brought a couple of examples, and I don't know if you guys want to take pictures and stuff, but instructions on the format of your proposal, which is, how you need to structure it, what sections need to be included, how to package it, what the outside of the package should say. But in general, I looked at a couple of building projects, I looked at some infrastructure, design, resident engineering inspection, and across the board, DDC has section 4, which is called Format and Content of the Proposal. And this section is always section 4. I looked at it over like 50 RFPs last night. And there, typically they have two packages. They have a technical proposal package, and then they have a fee proposal package, and sometimes there's a minority requirement package. But sometimes the fee and the minority one are together. Depends on infrastructure and buildings and if it's design or construction. And then they literally spell it out. It's you cannot miss it if you read this. It's like step 1, cover letter. Step 2, table of contents. Step 3, summary. Step 4, experience of subconsultants. Include form SF-254. They really make it very easy so that you can standardize your sections, and really, when you look at proposals, submittals, you'll see that everyone kind of have that same format. And in that sense, DDC has made it a lot easier than with other agencies when you're looking at that section and you're kind of confused on what goes first, what goes second, do I need a table of contents, do I not need it? They really do a good job of explaining that. So I'm gonna pass around a few ones, and if you guys, I can make extra copies.
So while Annabelle is passing that around, any one of you can go to the DDC website and download register and download the RFPs that are there. You may not have any intention of participating, but you can see the format, download it, you'll see the format, you'll get the addenda notices, and at least you'll get some experience as to what the format looks like. As Annabelle just said, we try to keep the template in a structure over all the RFPs that we have issued.
Excuse me, is this on the website?
Yes.
Yes.
That's section 4 or 5 of each proposal, and you'll see, it varies a little bit depending on if you're design, infrastructure, stuff like that. So that's why I'm saying you always want to read it. But in general, those are the general guidelines. Then the second thing I have is, this is more particular, I think it's in general for all companies, but it applies a lot to smaller companies that have limited staff. You know, who do you propose? You have a 5-person company and you're submitting 25 resumes. Obviously, they don't work all for you. So where are you getting the extra 20 resumes? You know, and one of the things that I think I hear a lot about is you're submitting resumes of people that you haven't even talked to. So if you're gonna submit a resident engineer, a project manager, a designer, you gotta make sure that you vetted them, you talked to them, that they have given you authorization to use your resumes, and you wanna know if they're giving the resumes to other firms. What's gonna happen if the person that's reviewing the proposals notices that five of the key staff that you're proposing are also in 3 other proposals? Who is this person really gonna work for? Or who is he really working for? And I think Medi's seen that, we've all seen that before, so that's something that I hear from DDC, that you just really have to be careful what you do with your stuff. And it's a little bit of an issue with smaller companies because you have limited staff. So that's something to consider. Then another thing I have is, does anyone know?
So the RFP that is going up for resident engineers when is it posted?
It was posted Tuesday.
It was posted Tuesday. Have 4 categories of firms: small, micro, small, medium, and large. So what we are attempting to do with this generation of RFPs is to try and get little niches where people will fit. What's the number of contracts going to be awarded?
We're gonna have 5 micro, 8 small, 7 medium, and 10 large. I just want to elaborate what Arabella is talking about here, the proposal here. I'm sure some of you are primes, MWBE, correct? How many are the prime MWBE here?
Prime
Primes.
consultants that are minority certified here?
Yeah.
And also, the prime is required to hire, to sub a portion of the contract here. It varies of the percentages based on the cost of the REIs to the MWBE. What happened often that with the proposals coming here is they're proposing the staffs. You know, it's very tight, I understand them, and they go and look for the staff here and do the searching here, and they get the REs, office engineers, the key personnel here. But if they don't have this person in their firm, they have to have a solid commitment from that particular person that is willing to come to the firm here and propose them. Often we have seen, this has been many times that we had to either, we can't find them non-responsive, but the committee member review them and they have to come up with some kind of decision here. This person works for the firm, works for firm A, and firm B comes in and proposes it. At the same time, the mother firm proposed the same person. So here, and you have beautiful RFP here, and you have a good RE, resident engineer. The mother person has the same thing here, and you get stuck because we have to accept the fact that this person is employed by a firm. So you have to make sure that if the person comes approach you, he does not give his resume to anybody else. It's you and you alone. That's very important.
I just wanted to say something before you continue. But the reality of it is that most people here have not done work with DDC, or they have done work with DDC as a sub. So even if we're talking about priming, but I think most people here, to be frank with you, the best way is to start as a sub-consultant.
Yes.
All right, so you can put the best proposal, but if DDC doesn't know who you are, there is basically the probability of you winning a contract as a prime is very low. It's like if you don't know somebody, you're not gonna let them work with you. So what I would say though, I'm just being real. What I would say though,
Yeah.
I think as we talk about this requirement contract coming, you guys need to start linking up with people who are gonna prime this job. I'm just telling you, just start linking, network with them, let them know what you do, come to the pre-proposal conference, but you have to establish relationship with the people who are gonna prime to allow you to break into DDC. Then DDC will see what you can do and allow you to. But I would really advise you to network with people who prime you.
Okay, so
Extremely
as
important.
ACO, I can't endorse that statement. I cannot endorse the statement that DDC will be biased against people who have not worked with DDC before. We work our evaluation tool to prevent that bias from creeping into the evaluation.
No, I'm not
That's
saying.
right.
I'm
That's
not saying.
he's trying
I'm
to
not
say
saying.
that the
but-
chances,
no, I'm
the
just saying-
chances of
what-
making it.
What I'm saying is that if you go and you have to be realistic. I'm not saying DDC will not give you a job. I'm not saying that as a. All I'm saying is that you have a high probability
chance,
of starting
right,
doing work
right.
with DDC by teaming up with somebody else who they know. And I'm saying when they say they know, not personally, their experience, their work. So what I'm saying is that there is a proposal conference. I would definitely ask you to come, meet all the prime. It's on the website. Meet all the primes, let them know you, network with them, send them information so that they feel comfortable using you as well to do work. We work as a prime and we work with people we feel comfortable that would bring value to our team. So what I'm saying is that not from DDC's side, but I'm saying my experience is that, and it's not only DDC, it's anybody. You don't give work to a contractor, you don't know what they do, even if you don't work at your place. So the reality is that as a client, they want to know that you can perform. So what I'm saying is that it's real, just get to know what DDC is all about, and they need to know who you are before you can actually do work for them. So that's what I'm
I
saying,
just
that's
want
my
to elaborate
experience.
about this here. We have a certain criteria. We're gonna go exactly rate you on your proposal with established criteria here. Familiarity with the project here, firm and sub-consultant experience. So when the committee member, I'm saying
I
endorse.
understand.
We
I just want to
understand.
elaborate here.
We
If the consultant and sub-consultant, they propose to us, and we say that the experience of prime and subs, and we look, committee member look at them here, they say that, listen, you have done many bridges, you have never done any infrastructure work. The rating, they have to rate you with that category. So that category rate obviously would be low, because you have never done any infrastructure work. That's probably is Rudy is referring to here, if you have not done yet. Not with the agency. Agency, we go exclusively with the criteria here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, and look at them here, and we rate you on that. And that's the one, yes.
But the commitment letter, the person works for firm A and he gives firm B a commitment letter. So who does it carry more weight?
This person here, what we have a problem here, we had what we call them, I'm gonna talk about the task order recently that EDC has. We have led about 70, 75, it's gonna be up to 80 task orders for the past 3 months with the large and the small firms. That's the existing one. So requirement contract, next requirement contract is gonna for 3 years. It's gonna be much number of task orders. What happens is that if the person who is interested in firm B, right? He says, I want to come to your firm B with the $10 increases. He should notify his prime firm, firm A, that I'm leaving. Because firm A doesn't know. They proposed it at the same time. And I've seen the name of the person has 3 different firms. 1, 2, 3. So I'm saying that it's your responsibility as a firm B, because he doesn't work for you, to make sure that you have what we call them attachment 3 in our proposal. There's a section, we ask question, is this person works for you? Yes or no? If it is no, Then next page you have to follow here, he has to have a sort of written commitment, not just fill it in. That if you win the proposal, you have to consider him that comes to you. That's the way that we are dealing with, and we get stuck here. And we would that person here, we're gonna consider him that he's still with a mother firm. Yeah.
But you see, there is a catch there, and it's a gray area, and I have experienced that before. A person's resume was used on their proposal, but that person was planning to leave, and he had planned to leave already, and he had promised the other firm, I'm gonna be with you on this such and such a time, so you can use my resume, because I'm quitting.
But
But
he
didn't tell his
His boss.
company that he was going to leave in a few weeks.
He hedged
So
his
after
bet.
the proposal was submitted, he quit. He
But
was
that's why
not
you-
interested in the proposal.
That's why
He
you
was-
get the written confirmation from him saying that, yes, my current employer doesn't know I'm leaving, but my commitment is if this company wins the job, I will go to them. That's what he's talking about.
Unfortunately,
You don't
In the
include it,
letters?
you don't include it, it asks you for a written commitment, you check it,
Right.
it doesn't include it, but if you get selected and you have to provide it, if it so happens that other people propose it, now you're the one that shows up with the
So
written
you don't
commitment.
recommend to include it as
No, no.
with the proposal?
No, they don't ask for
I think
that.
you should treat
Yeah,
it
but-
on a case-by-case basis, because some of them are just not intentional. It's just a miscommunication.
We cannot give any of these to the person who is invisible. That person must be committed to the firm here, because one of the rating is your staff. If the staff is the key personnel here of supervising the contract, we have to be very, very careful. We would make sure that this person here is the person in charge of this job. If the person is not there, we are not coming back to you. We're gonna rate them low.
Excuse me, one question. It happened.
One sec.
Yeah, she made a very important sentence, Annabella, in her statement that the first company doesn't know that the person is moving out. Now, is it acceptable to DDC?
First
If
company doesn't
the
know.
first company provides that person's name,
Yeah, the company is going to provide the name because
They don't know
that
he's
company is
leaving.
not aware. The
Then-
point is, does the respective employee take his chances and he doesn't communicate till he gets another offer in But his you hand? can always
We would, in that case here, in our requirement contract here, I've contacted, because I know most of these REs, the names, because we have a database system. Once you put your name here, your name goes there in the system here, you would come in and flag them. And once you flag, we would have a tendency that we assume that this person still works for Prime.
He's working,
Yes.
but he's
No,
working for.
our assumption, as I said at the very beginning, assumption is this person works for Prime here. It has been a case that the second proposal has been excellent, and we had to contact, sort it out here. Is he person with you here? Then we find out what, no, person is already verbally have told the company, as you said, he's leaving. That has been replaced.
and it's something that sometimes it doesn't arise until after the award. But if what has happened, if you have presented a name, we will go to the point of denying you that contract or task order if you cannot provide the person.
Yeah, that's clear.
All right?
Well, we had, actually, we had a case here. One thing I have to say that there is no fee proposal. There is no
Yeah.
fee submitted by proposal. I just want to correct you.
Oh, yeah.
What we doing is that we have
It's a QBS, basically.
right.
QBS.
QBS, quality-based selection
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
Once you're selected, you come in here for negotiation. When you come for the negotiation, John has been witness in the past, one of the contract here, if the name that you propose and is not there, and you cannot provide it, say, well, I provide him, but I'm here. We deny the contract unless that particular firm, if you recall that particular firm went back, got the same person back, because we were going to go back to the original proposal and review them. And that person came back to the company, and they were rehired, and then negotiation was continued.
So I kind of run in one question, and then I want Gideon to say some words.
Thank you very much.
Rudolph, sorry.
Thank you very much. Very important question. How do I know that I gave my resume to firm A? Firm A shared with his friend firm B or C. How can I find, is there an easy way to come to DDC or a website to find out my resume with A, B, C?
They have approached me. I don't know whether I have a permission to say the person here that you are proposed with the A, B, C, D here. It has been a case.
It has been a case.
I know that. I personally, I know exactly what you're saying. I didn't answer them. I cannot answer them. Said, wait a minute, some firm propose you because you know who your resume you gave to. So that's the
In a nutshell, when it comes to resumes, what it comes down to is very simple, written confirmation. If you have a written confirmation from the person that they would come work for you, all this questions and all the time we spent is gonna get taken care of because whoever has the written confirmation has the proof.
Even
So that's
if
why
he's
we're
not
saying
on
written
roll.
confirmation.
Even if he's not on roll at that time.
Even your example, if he hasn't told his current employer, then get a written confirmation. If his current employer doesn't need to know that he's coming to you, but when you propose them and they ask you, you have a written confirmation. His current employer doesn't need to know, but at least he made the commitment to you and it's in a written letter, that
Yeah, but-
commitment.
I just want Rudolph to give a few words because we only
And
have
the reason
15
is
more
very
minutes.
clear, because DDC wants to make sure that when you propose somebody, it is real. Because you can propose, let's say, 20 resumes and they don't even know that you're submitting a proposal, which is not fair because you're gonna be evaluated on key staff as well. There are a few things I would like to say basically that I think would be very important. We talk about forms. They take a long time. We need to understand how they work, and as it is suggested before, take a look at current RFPs, familiarize yourself with the forms because you have to make sure, because if you don't get them properly done, you're gonna be deemed basically non-responsive. The other thing I would like to say is that for people who are actually subbing to Prime, best value, the Primes are looking for somebody who can come on board and help them win the project. So if you have, the more information that you have, pre-proposal conference, doing your own research, trying to get information that will actually get the Prime, to get the proposal basically much stronger, that's what Primes are looking for. So you need to make sure that you stay with them, with the network, because I think eventually it is extremely important that you stay on top of proposals. I would even suggest that before an RFP comes out, there is, from Mark's office, the mayor's office of service contracts, they have a list of fiscal year, all the projects that are coming out. I would highly encourage you to go to that list so that by the time you come to a pre-proposal conference, I can tell you some of the teams are already done. So if you want to really make sure that you get on teams, you have to do it early, do your homework, review DDC's requirement, make sure you understand. I can tell you our first proposal with DDC, we suggested to a firm that we would write the technical approach. And we did, because we had eventually understood the project. And that was the first, that's how we got into DDC. So I would highly encourage you to actually know DDC better than anybody else, so that it's easier for you actually to come and win, as a prime or as a sub.
And then I have one thing, which is everyone familiar with how the multiplier, how you work with multipliers and your FAR audit? Or you've never really heard FAR before? How many people don't know? Because it's very important. This is about your pricing and how you're gonna, okay. So basically, FAR, if you guys wanna write this down, stands for Federal Acquisition Regulation. And it's the acquisition process is regulated for federal purchasing for services and products. So that's what most agencies in New York City will do, so that you can establish what multiplier includes your overhead expenses and also your percentage of profit, whether that's 8%, 10%, whatever the agency allows you to use. So what you want to do, whether you're a sub or a prime, is that you want to make sure that you are, if you're a small firm, some firms do it every 2 years, larger firms do it every year. But you want to make sure that at the end of the year, you hire a CPA that knows the rules of FAR, the FAR audit, what are allowable costs and what are not allowable costs, so that they can look at your company's finances and give you an actual number that belongs to your overhead rate. And the way they do it is that they give you two overhead rates in terms of percentages. They give you the home rate, which is when you're working like on design contracts because you have staff working in your office, so it's considered a home base. And then you have the field overhead rate, which is for like inspection projects or resident engineering inspection projects, which your staff isn't in the office, it's mostly on a field office, so rent and stuff like that doesn't apply. So your field overhead rate is typically smaller than your home overhead rate. With that rate, there's an equation, you figure out your percentage and you come up with your multiplier. That's the multiplier that most of the DDC proposals ask you for. So when you put in the rates of all the different positions, like resident engineer or designer or whatever, you'll have $50 an hour, $20 an hour. You'll put their base hourly rates. And then they'll ask you in a section for what is your multiplier. That's where you put the multiplier. So when you're billing the client, let's say you're paying someone $20 an hour, you're actually gonna bill them 20 times whatever that multiplier is, which is gonna cover your overhead rate plus your percent of profit. So that's something that I didn't know when I started working.
I'm just getting a tiny bit confused. Are you referring to every kind of contract, because I'm a builder? Or are you just referring to professional contracts for engineers and architects?
I'm referring for DDC, infrastructure, building or infrastructure design.
Professional.
Professional, of course.
Thank you.
I would,
So
we are not talking contract.
Not.
No, this is
Okay,
professional
I'm writing all this down
contracts.
going, wait a minute.
Yeah, no, professional contracts. So if you're gonna be doing design, building design of
Right.
infrastructure, resident engineer inspection, stuff like that.
Construction management.
We are assuming everybody here is here for professional contract.
Yeah, no contract.
For RFPs, because we don't do RFPs for construction.
That's
Yes, yes.
Yes.
One more thing that I have to emphasize.
That's okay. Okay, just want to remind everybody that the multiplier, it shows on the fee proposal, and usually for the DDC RFP process, make sure that, take a look at section 4, the format of the proposal. Usually fee proposal is not required for submission at the very beginning. Only the apparent awardee under consideration will be contacted to submit their VENDEX and the fee proposal. That is the time when you need to put the multiplier there, and you need to put a supporting document for your multiplier, which is the FAR documents. And the other thing I want to mention is Rudolph mentioned the list as to what agency plans to procure for this fiscal year. The place where you can go is go to nyc.gov. You search for Mayor's Office of Contract Services. Once you are on the homepage of MOC's Mayor's Office of Contract Services, look for procurement plan. Over there you can see the whole list for all the mayoral agencies, their procurement plan. It is constantly updated. So go there and you can have some picture ahead of you.
One more thing that I'd like to emphasize, because I deal with a lot of crimes and assault as well. Those of you who intend to be part of a requirement contract as a sub, and I was at MWBE, and the chunk of our contract right now is going to MWBE. I'll give you an example here. For the past 3 months that we have done task order is about 15 million has gone to MWBE out of 80 million contract that we set up. That's professional contract. That's a lot of it. The primes are basically not getting qualified people from the sub, particularly MWBE, because they are saying that we are reaching out to them here, they cannot provide us. And I don't know the issue here, but that's the case, that you have to make sure that you have qualified in order to build yourself up. Because at one point, you want to come back as a prime here. And some of the minorities are prime already here, but that's the issue here, yes.
Thank you. Can a prime or even subs build up their credits for MWBE with other types of professional participation, like attorneys, like insurance brokerage, like?
There is only one criteria for MWBE. You go to the Department of Small Business Services and you get certified. That's it.
Yes, and when we talk about MWBE, it's New York City certified MWBE. I don't know how many people of you have been certified by the state. It's different. If you are certified by the state, you still need to get certified with New York City. You're probably on the fast track, but you need to get a certificate from New York City. That's something very important.
All right, so you just wrap. Go ahead.
Very quickly. Again, from a private sector standpoint, be selective when you go out to proposals. Don't anything you see you want to submit, because you need to make sure where your strength is or strengths are, and that's where you need to focus your
Yes.
time. That's the first thing. The second thing, I think, if you get an opportunity to get a debriefing, please get the debriefing. Because the agency, DDC, will tell you when they reviewed your proposal what were some of the weaknesses and strengths. So that next time when you come back again, you want to make sure that you actually look at where you were doing very well, you're improving that. That's extremely important, because I know for us, we started submitting proposals, but we weren't getting anywhere. We came from debriefing and told us yes. And I think John mentioned that we had people with strong background in design, but we weren't highlighting them enough for the specific proposal. So not all the proposal RFPs are equal. So you have to make sure that your resumes, your information is tailored toward the specific RFP and the scope that you do. Because if you just grab a master resume and just put it in there, the evaluation committee will see to it that you didn't actually put time into it, you're just giving resume. And lastly, from what Anna was saying, I would suggest that there is a book called the Project Management Manual from PSMG, and they talk about marketing, proposals, how to price a job, quality review, networking. I think it's a good book to have. PSMG resources. It's a 2012. It's a project manual, project management manual. I think it's extremely comprehensive, and it will give you a lot of information. It's about $200, but I think it's worth it.
So I just want to wrap up and talk about the most important thing to you: how you get paid. So all companies, individuals, sole proprietors that want to do business with the city have to register in the city's financial system. There's a portal called the Payee Information Portal, and we cannot do it for you. We cannot register you in the city's financial management system. So you have to go to the Payee Information Portal and register. When you register, you have to choose commodity codes, yes, that word, that align with the jobs that you want to get noticed about. And a couple of things happen in the Payee Information Portal. If you have work with the city bundles checks, so that when your check comes to you, you might have 5 or 6 or 8 different jobs all included in that total, and you wouldn't know which invoices you're being paid for. So the Payee Information Portal tells you in that bundle what invoices you're being paid for and how much. The other thing that is Payee Information Portal is used for is to measure your MWBE participation. So primes have to enter into the Payee Information Portal. They have to enter the subs. The DDC, upon review of the business integrity of the sub and different criteria, will approve the sub in the Payee Information Portal, and the prime has to go back to the information portal and say how much they have paid the sub as invoices pass along. That's very important to DDC because the controllers measures our MWBE participation based on the amount that has been paid to the MWBs in PIP, Payee Information Portal. So it's very important for all of us here, if you want to do business in the city, that you get familiar with PIP. So I think we have 3 minutes.
Okay, so don't forget that when you got this manual thing, don't forget to fill out the form on, how you think this workshop went. We always want feedback so we can do better next time. And then on page 4 of the thing
program
of the program, on the bottom of page 4 is a link where the video is going to be online. And then another thing for a lot of you guys that are trying to do business, if you go to the DDC website, there's a link on the top that talks about mentorship something. There's only like 4 links. Click on it. There's workshops that are free. They happen every month, I think, here in a classroom. They have space for about 30, 40 people sitting down. So everyone's gonna be sitting down. And they have classes on everything: marketing, how to read a proposal, how to, operations, like anything that will help you be a better manager of your business and assist you in doing business with DDC. I will suggest a class on step by step how to respond to an RFP, how to read the RFP and step by step, which is I think what a lot of you guys are looking at. And hopefully we'll get, like, I'll talk to Maggie and hopefully we'll get that in the next couple of months. And I can suggest, like, you know, have it, and if they don't have anyone to teach it, I can teach it myself. But I think that a lot of people would gain from that. So keep checking that website. You'll get a lot of information there on any kind of free classes that you need. Okay?
Okay, thank you.